She passed away yesterday. I think she was 75, and she actually had received an incredible honor. She received her star along with Laverne, you know,
Right.
and
Right.
that was in 2004. But it was kind of a double ceremony because I mean Laverne and Shirley. I mean they were joined at the hip in the series, and of course that's what they did. A couple other things. She received a Golden Globes in '78 for a comedy musical, which was Laverne and Shirley. She got a. Let's see, what else did she do?
Well,
She
I
was
think
also a
she did
writer. I just want to say this real quick. She had actually written quite a few of the what we call it side gags in the comedy business. Some of the stuff. She was very creative. But John, if you got anything to add that you might think is interesting before we get to our guests, I want to pay all due
well,
respect to Miss Williams.
sure. I remember Cindy Williams mostly for Laverne and Shirley. I was a kid, and I probably watched it every time it was on, along with Happy Days. It was a nice, wholesome Americana in the 1970s. She actually did 158 episodes between 1976 and 1982.
Exactly. Well, it was a very, very successful, and like we say, the show, and of course, uh, it lives in syndication, second run syndication, as we say. John,
Yeah,
why don't you
and
go
I
ahead
believe them.
and introduce our first guest?
All right, so we have an actor that if you watch any kind of television or film, you may well have seen. He's a very accomplished actor based in New York. I'm going to read you just a little bit about his bio. He's a voiceover artist. He was awarded Best Actor in a Leading Role in 2019 by Series Fest. He is a graduate of the State University of New York with a degree in theater arts and education, and he's taught in middle schools in both New York and Los Angeles. He's a multi-talented performer. You may have seen him on a couple of primetime cop shows, Law and Order, SVU, FBI Most Wanted. He's been on a Netflix recurring series, Uncoupled, with Neil Patrick Harris and Marcia Gay Harden. He's guest starred on Panhandle opposite Leslie Ann Warren and Golden Globe winner Luke Kirby in the marvelous Mrs. Maisel, which is quite a hit. I can't wait to ask him about that. His name is Jay Santiago Suarez. Thank you very much for joining us today on Movies and More, Jay.
Good afternoon, and thank you for having me along with you and Stacy for on this Gratitude Day.
Yes.
That's a play on words, because today I received an email from an old friend of mine, meaning many years, and I just received that email saying Gratitude Day, and I thought it was great, so I wanted to focus more on the Gratitude Day today, and I'm so grateful to be here with you and your listening public.
Oh, absolutely. Stace, you want me to take this off here?
Yeah, I tell you what, just Jay, again, welcome to the show. And we had yesterday, actually the day before, some freezing rain, and I understand you're starting to get hit with what we had. So I'm sure you're all hunkered down out there, but if you go outside, be careful. That's what I was going to say, But yeah, by all means, John, let's start with the first question from you.
Sure. So Jay, you are actually based in Manhattan. Is that home to you?
I'm based in New York. Although I do have representation in New York and in LA, which is the same agent, and also representation in the Southeast out of Atlanta. So being based in New York with the new way that Hollywood and the show business have taken, that has all been digital, I could be in all three coasts.
Absolutely, you can audition for anybody. Sure,
yeah,
you can audition for anybody anywhere. You are very familiar with stage acting, television acting, and film acting. Tell us a little bit about how you got started in that, Jay.
Well, it all goes back to, for in a dream. Everybody has a dream or something that they dream to do when in their childhood or in fantasy. So, it just starts there. And out of a turn of events that happened within, in the kids who I grew up with, they all were like musically inclined, or they wanted to do theater. So I was surrounded by that. And plus, near the houses where I lived, there were some singers and actors. So I would just hear that as in my childhood. Fast forward, some of the kids that I grew up with, of course, became musicians back home, and also they were doing all different types of voiceovers and television. And one day I was with a friend of mine who was a musician singer, and he had a side job like most actors do if they're not born into royalty, into Hollywood royalty. And
Sure.
and so he had this side job in a radio station such as this, right? And he had to leave for about 2 weeks, and he didn't want to lose the job, so he asked if I would fill in for him, because if he left, he wouldn't have a job to come to. So he had an agreement with the owner, who was Bob Hope.
Oh,
And the studio, the radio station, was called Radio Rock in San Juan, Puerto Rico. It was owned by Bob Hope, and then his brother Jack took it over afterwards. I'm talking back. This is in the mid '70s, and
Sure.
so I did reluctantly went, because I didn't want. He was a handyman, and he did everything around the studio, from changing a light bulb to getting coffee to the DJs and so forth. And so he was like a very valuable man, and in that studio. I went with her. I went, and I did it for 2 weeks. And as I went along, I befriended the DJs, and they were asking me what were my interests. So I said, that's all about, I love acting, dancing, singing, the whole works. So he said, okay, I know somebody at that WAPA Channel 4. Why don't you go see her? I went to see her. She says, can you dance? I said, oh, of course. I just started dancing. And she says, well, unfortunately, I didn't use guys. I only use girls in my show. But in Channel 2 and Roosevelt Boulevard, and that's in San Juan, Puerto Rico, just go and see Ita Medina. She might take you on. She has boys in her group. So I did go, and the rest was legend, history. I have been there for 5 years, part of a TV show, a la Carol Burnett, which was a variety show. And, we did everything from background dancing to the commercial breaks to announcing, and we just did everything. That was a great schooling for me, I was learning it live. And it was live TV at that time. It was Noche de Gala by Eastern Airlines. And that was done live, and we had to do everything on the spot, like we're doing it right now. So I was fortunate to have a little piece of that in Telemundo, in the original Telemundo in San Juan. Afterwards, just things expanded, and that has been the start of my love affair with show business.
well, Jay, let me ask you something. And looking at your body of work, which is very extensive, and you should be very proud of your history here. I noticed that you had been involved with Ghostwriters from 2019 through 2021, and I guess you did quite a number of episodes, right? Can you give us a little history about that?
Absolutely. Ghostwriter it's a show that used to that had its day back in the 90s in PBS in Sesame Street, and it just lasted for about 3 years, and then now it was revived again. And I played in Ghostwriter. Let me just give you the setting. The setting is a group of kids. They go on an adventure, and there's a ghostwriter, not a person, but literally a ghost writing them clues for them so that they can find them in different stories in books.
Wow.
So this takes place in a bookstore, and so I am the owner of the bookstore, the grandfather to one of the kids, who's the leader of the
Poppy.
the pack. Yes, I am Grandpappy. And so yes, I did 26 episodes. That would be 2 seasons, season 1 and season 2 of Ghost Rider. It's an Apple TV Plus. That's actively there right now. They're into season 3. I am not in season 3. I'm in season 1 and 2. There's 26 episodes total. So, and I play the grandfather who has no idea that all this activity is going on in his in my store. So basically, I'm just managing the store, and the kids are doing all this like. Unaware, I'm unaware that all this activity is going on, but the kids, they see it all.
Well, is it comedy or drama? What genre is it? Would you say, Jay?
That would be a dramedy, and it's
right.
more for young adults.
Yes,
kids towards young adults, so that they'll be able to, be interested in literature and books. And the classics, and so a lot of the characters, they just pop out of the book and they become alive. Neil Patrick Harris is a voice for one of the characters, and so are other celebrities that are part of that story.
Right. So it's really you're sending a positive message as part of the content. It sounds. Now, I have not seen it, but I tell you what. I'm going to dig it up however I can get to it.
Yes, it's up. It's on Apple TV Plus.
You see, yes, Apple TV. Well, we'll sure access
You'll find there under the family and family and friends. I think that's what's called the category. Yeah.
Right.
Family Adventures. Yeah.
Oh, here. Okay. I was looking at another credit here. Actually, John had alluded to it in the open. The FBI. Now that's the more contemporary one. There was a series called the FBI way back in the '60s with Eflin Zimbalist Jr., if you remember. Okay, and that was back when. From what I understand. J. Edgar Hoover, who was the director of the FBI at that time, gave his absolute thumbs up approval of then the inspector that was played by Eflin Zimbalist Jr. And I guess that had a pretty good run. I think it ran for about 5 years, and it was sponsored by the Ford Motor Company, which, ironically enough, at that time, for just a coincidence, all the FBI agents were driving Fords. Go figure. Who could imagine? So shameless product placement, and I think by doing that, I don't know if maybe Mr. Hoover had some stock in Ford or something. Who knows? But that's the way it worked out.
That is. I don't think that's a coincidence. That's probably
no. I was being I was being a little cute with that comment, but no. Everything that occurs in television or movies, normally there's a reason behind it. We can do a whole show about product placement, and that's another thing.
Yes, but FBI. Yes, that show. I remember that show. Yeah, back in the '60s, it was very interesting. This is a takeoff on that, and this is, but the franchise, the Dick Wolf Productions franchise. Yeah. He has all of this Law and Order and FBI. He has FBI and FBI International and FBI Most Wanted. Yeah. So there are 3 different shows in that genre, and it's very successful. People like that. And
you mentioned Dick Wolf. I got to ask you a question. Have you ever had a chance to meet him personally?
I have not meet him personally. I have been in that office. I do know Jonathan Strauss, who is one of the producers and also a casting director for the series. I do know him and Jenny Rabbits. out of that office who is part of that team, but I have not met him personally.
Well, the reason I
Yeah.
ask was the question I've had for the last several years: when the heck does that man sleep? I mean, he's got
I'm
every
telling
show. I mean, Wednesday night, NBC owns, those Nielsen's. I mean, they've got, I guess it's Chicago MD and Chicago FD and the Chicago PD. And I don't know who's in
Yeah.
second place, but I assure you that his shows are in first place on Wednesday night. I mean, he's just an incredible guy, and his stuff goes all the way back. I guess the original Law and Order way back in the day, But
Yes.
but I take my hat off to him because we're involved, John and I, with filmmaking, and we've got a couple of TV things going, and game shows I think you might maybe be familiar with, but at any rate, I can just only imagine what goes through that man's mind and what kind of day he has,
Yeah, and
Yes.
Stacey, the things that I kind of I like that too. It's like old Hollywood, that the studios, they had like different theaters and different films going on, and they all have the different genres going on. He has all of the procedurals, but they're from different different departments within our lives, which the fire department, police department,
yes,
and the like. So it's just like a little studio, not little. I mean, it's huge, but to me, it has that feel of old Hollywood, where productions are going on constantly regarding productions that they have within their own studios.
right.
Hey guys, you're listening to Movies and More with John Brandon and Stacey Helvis, and our guest today is Jay Santiago Suarez, a New York City-based actor. I got to ask you this, Jay. When I looked over your resume, you actually had a character, possibly more than once, that you played on The Late Show with David Letterman. What was it like standing toe-to-toe with the great David Letterman?
That is correct. It was so. This was funny because I got the call from my manager and said, "Oh, they want to see you tonight." I said, "Tonight? Who?" David Letterman's show. They need someone to come on and be this Monsignor and just have a skit. And I'm saying, "Are you kidding me?" Yes, of course I'll go and do it. And it was a skit, a small skit, as he has in between his guests, right? And so. The moment I said yes, I mean, within an hour, there was a car to pick me up to take me down to the studio. It was so funny. And so I went up there and got all dressed up and everything else. The showrunner just told me, "Hey, this is what we're doing." It was improv. And I did it. It was done in the afternoon, and the show later on that night. And it was done quick. The car's waiting for you to take you back home. It was like it was all done in less than 3 hours or 4 hours. It was amazing, and I didn't actually get to see him because he was taping after. I did see him in between the in the dressing rooms as I passed by, and I say, "Hey, I am Andreu. I am the Monsignor," and he just smiled at me and said, "Hello, welcome." But and actually, with the way they shoot that, when they do them, they just shoot in sessions, And so it was amazing how it was so quickly done. I mean, television is so fast that you really have to think on you really have to think on your toes, and the training that I had with Telemundo back, in the 70s, that prepared me for this, for doing things on the spot, So that was an amazing experience for me.
I'm looking at your Jay. I'm looking at your picture on your IMDb page of you. I think it's you dressed up as this Cardinal and Andreu. It's pretty believable. People have to remember there's been more than one famous actor that came out of doing something just like that. I believe actor Chris Elliott started as the man under the stairs for Letterman back in the 80s and 90s. Had a pretty nice little film career. And he was probably most famous for being the cameraman in Groundhog Day.
Oh, okay,
So-
okay, yes, I do remember that.
Stace, how we
Well,
doing
yeah.
on time?
Well, we're going to come up with a hard break here in just I think just a couple of minutes. So I'm gonna start this question, Jay, but there's no way you can probably answer it in the short time that we're going to have. But as a Latino breaking into the business, you've seen, I guess, several stars that have came out of, let's say, your period. I'm thinking that one that I'm personally familiar with, Gerardo Mejia. And if you remember, he had been in the movie Colors with Sean Penn. In fact, he had the distinction of killing Robert Duvall in the second to last scene in a gang shootout with the police. And
Yes.
so he developed, and of course, Freddie Prinze Sr., God rest his soul. But how would you say that the Latino acceptance has maybe improved over the last, let's say, maybe decade or so? And again, we've only got a couple of minutes, and
Sure.
we'll be able to follow up when we come back from our break. But just real quickly, give us a little bit into that.
Well, just in this last few years, there has been such an uproar in between, acting and actors asking for more diversity within Hollywood, and that is coming. Of course, now Screen Actors Guild has gotten involved in making sure that there is enough representation for not only Latinos but for other minority groups or ethnic groups, and so as you see that now, it's mirroring. You can see it in the Golden Globes Awards that just recently
Yes.
just had, and now in the nominations for the Academy Awards. You can see that there is that diversity going on, which has opened doors to more Latinos, because now we have more writers and we have more directors, and there are a lot graduating from the schools, the film schools, as directors and writers,
Jay,
screenwriters.
we're coming up on a hard break, but when we come back, I want you to follow through back with that. And I think that the community has finally woke up. That there's a lot of demographics that have been looked over, and
Yes.
certainly the Latino community was that. But
Absolutely.
at any rate, we want our listeners to stick around for the next half hour, because we've got a whole bunch of interesting questions that we're going to pose to you. And so, folks, stick around for more movies and more.
Do you want to become a radio show host, or do you want to create a radio show? Well, Dr. Stan Fine can help you to have your own radio show and put you on 100 cities daily across the U.S. And you can immediately start recording from a live radio studio. As a radio industry veteran, Dr. Stan Fine has 12 years of experience and has produced and hosted over 1,000 radio shows with over 10 million listeners. Dr. Stan Fine knows how to make this happen for you. He's a pro, and he can turn your dreams into a reality. Dr. Stan Fine will help you with everything from learning how to promote your show, develop a host persona, interview techniques, market your show on social media, teach you how to get guests and sponsors, and more. Dr. Stan Fine can put you on the air nationwide daily to 100 cities. If you're interested in making your dream come true, if you want to see how it all works, then give Dr. Stan Fine a call at 314-710-8413. That's 314-710-8413. You've got nothing to lose, and Dr. Stan Fine can help make your nationwide radio dreams come true. If you're looking for a new, informative health and lifestyle show to gain knowledge and inspiration to help guide your journey to think, work, and live more powerfully, then you need to listen to Sage Advice with Melissa. It's live each Thursday from 10 to 11. Now, whether you're trying to improve your life from a mental, physical, or spiritual journey, Sage Advice with Melissa Coleman, CEO of Sage Skincare, delivers weekly advice from industry experts to provide you with insightful suggestions to allow you to thrive with a better quality of life. Melissa's mission? To guide you through the uncharted waters of health and wellness and to give you a voice to help improve your life. So be sure to tune in to Melissa on KWRH 92.9 FM every Thursday at 10 a.m. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, listeners, saying thanks to your customers is nice and polite, but expressing your gratitude in memorable and ongoing ways can boost your business. At Promo Experts LLC, we exceed our customers' expectations. For over 20 years, our product knowledge and experience has helped them with their marketing initiatives and trade show graphics. We are happy to put that experience to work for you. Quality products, great customer service, and prices are our number one priority. We work with you to find unique, creative, and new ideas that fit your image and expectations, helping you build strong relationships with your customers. When you select Promo Experts as your marketing partner, we help you to see more than the big picture. For more information about this exciting opportunity, contact Diane Carson, President, at 636-458-5241. That's 636-458-5241. Let Promo Experts help you to move your business brand beyond the bland. Have you always wanted to write your own book but don't know where to start? Publishing Concepts, a publishing company located right here in St. Louis, offers everything from consulting, book printing, copyrights, ISBNs and barcodes, print book layout, ebook and iBook layout, graphic design, cover design, ghostwriting, typing and editing, distribution, marketing, and more for an affordable price. Visit publishingconceptsllc.com or just Google Publishing Concepts to get started today, or call 314-781-8880. That's 314-781-8880. Publishing Concepts. We help you sell more books.
And welcome back to Movies and More. We're talking today with Jay Santiago Cerez. Jay, you were on a roll there, buddy, and I'm sorry we had to cut you off. You were explaining about how the Latino community has evolved in the television and film industry. And I guess your career is certainly one to be very, very proud of. And so just pick up from where you left off, okay?
Yes, I was talking about the participation of Latinos and other other ethnic groups within the Hollywood community, and now lately we have been seeing more presence, and that's because there's a lot more writers and directors graduating from the film schools, and also with the diversity push that Screen Actors Guild has promoted, and so now the opportunities are open. And unlike the old Latino Hollywood, which was when Desi Arnaz and Jose Ferrer, Ramon Navarro, we're talking about the golden era of Hollywood. There were Latinos within. Rita Moreno was one of them, and she was a young, and she's done other things besides that we don't recognize because she wasn't portrayed as a Latina, but she played other ethnicities, as in The King and I and other films. So now that Hollywood has changed in its format and the way it represents the different population, the different groups. Now with the advent of digital, doors are opening, and there's the many avenues that we have in order to do the representation, such as web series. There's a lot of web series going on, and they're very successful. They're not as popular, but they are, and they have the same format. It goes through the 13 episode format. The 10th, which if it's a limited websites series, and it has the same content, and there's also content creation and other venues like YouTube and people with YouTube channels are coming and creating their own content. So that is a way that Hollywood is beginning to evolve. Now it's taking a life of its own in that direction.
Wow.
Jay Santiago Suarez, accomplished actor. Are you saying, as we sit here in 2023, that this is the best time in the history of the world to be a Latino actor trying to make it somehow?
I think it is, because when I was back in the 70s, late 70s and early 80s, I mean, there were very few on television, but we were there represented. And I did mostly commercials, and what I did was with smaller parts in the television shows, and basically what I did was mostly, off Broadway shows, and in LA I was doing the 99-seater, which is the equity waiver. So that it was kind of difficult, and to get into the union was a different story. So we can touch up on that later on. But yeah, now it's a good time to be Latino in Hollywood.
Who were the one or two Latino figures, whether they were actors or directors or writers or producers in film or television? Who were the two that gave you the most inspiration and made you think, you know what, I can give that a try? There's opportunity. Is there anybody that comes to mind for you, whether it was from the 70s or 80s?
I mentioned one of them, which is definitely, someone who I portrayed in different skit shows and in different presentations, which is Desi Arnaz. Desi Arnaz was a musician turned actor, and then of course, she was the other half of Lucy of the Desilu Productions. So when I heard that accent, and I was. I must have been, 9 years old, 8 years old, and I'm hearing this. I said, that sounds familiar. I couldn't figure it out, but it sounded familiar to me. And of course, and it was back in my hometown in Puerto Rico, and it was in English, and English we didn't speak English. So I was kind of like, okay, I was intrigued by that. Until then afterwards, beginning when I came to the States, it was like, okay, it's a different story now. And then that he was one of the first figures that inspired me to continue to do this and play the conga.
And people out in radio land most of them probably don't really comprehend how powerful and influential Desi Arnaz and Lucille Ball were with Desilu Productions. I mean, they were a monster in the 50s, 60s, 70s.
Yeah, a lot of the
Go ahead.
No, a lot of the shows besides I Love Lucy were produced by them that you see that you didn't think, oh my, I didn't even know that was part of the Desilu Productions, such as Star Trek.
Yeah, they produced All in the Family, I do believe. All in the Family, which was a monster hit. There's a pretty funny story with Rob Reiner. Had a confrontation with Desi Arnaz about the script. He ad-libbed a few lines, and Desi Arnaz took him to the woodshed during a break. Going, we pay $14,000 for this script. This is in like 1970. You don't change it,
And he was an innovator of the 3-camera, live. First of all, live audience and 3 cameras technique. When you use that as a multicam nowadays, that he was the inventor of that. He saw the need to do it live, and he saw the need to film it from different angles as opposed to changing lighting and
revolutionary is what you're saying. A little bit.
Yes, indeed. Yes, back in the 50s and 60s.
Well, he was certainly an innovator. I heard, I guess it was probably maybe his last or second to last interview before he passed away. And he was kind of the guy behind the scenes, but he said that Lucy absolutely contributed so much to his career that he was in awe of her innovativeness. But the thing is that together they made this incredible team. They worked so well together. And, like I guess what happens with so many marriages, I know it happened with mine. They were divorced, but even afterwards, there wasn't really any animosity between them. He was respectful of her, she was respectful of him, and they were just icons without any question. And years ago, I guess it was back in the 80s, I had an opportunity to meet a gentleman by the name of Mr. Jim Wright. And actually, what they had came up with, I guess it was Desi had actually came up with a multiple camera shoot concept. So whenever you see a sitcom being taped today, you have multiple cameras, as opposed to one camera. You get something on, then you move the camera and so forth. But Desi actually came up with that concept. So I think at one point they had perfected the point to where he actually had, 3 floor cams, and I guess a higher camera, and but that was of his doing. So he, very, very innovative or whatever. So I like you, Jay. I grew up with those two. They were incredible.
Yeah.
I want to. Go ahead, Jay. Sorry.
No, go ahead.
I wanted to ask you. There's a man. He's a filmmaker. His name is Robert Rodriguez. He's extremely influential with his style. He got famous on the world stage. He puts the Sundance Film Festival on the world stage back in 1993 with his $8,000 film El Mariachi. How familiar are you with Robert Rodriguez and his style, his very unusual, unique style, and what are your thoughts on his influence in Latino society, in the acting world, in the filmmaking world?
Yeah, I would say he's really been an innovator. Also, he has his own unique styles, just like Quentin Tarantino has his own style. And most of his productions are now, they're all compiled now in the Array Network. That is his network. It is a streaming service, and you can find all of his films on that. He has been influential in many Latino actors' careers, such as the guy that did Machete, right?
Sure, Danny Trejo. Sure,
Danny Trejo. He's like everywhere. He's doing commercials, and you wouldn't think that type of person with the look would be doing a commercial for a car or other. But that's how influential he has been, and he has really innovated his style. He's innovated that, and I liken it to Latino Quentin Tarantino,
Sure, and they're friends. They're actually good friends. Sure.
Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So to me, I think he has been very influential. Although I would like to see more of his work because it's so sporadic. It's been years since I've seen a new release and something that would catch me. So everything that I've seen right now has been at an Array network on the streamers.
Okay.
Jay, one of the things I hear all the time from budding actors, actresses, people wanting to get in the business, you hear the proverbial catch-22. To get an agent, you have to be working. But to be working, you have to get an agent. So the obvious question is, how do you break out of that mode? If you don't have an agent, and you really don't have a portfolio or some kind of background, how does one achieve that? How is that possible?
Yes, you say catch-22 is the perfect expression for that. Because yes. Also, like being in the union, if you can't do a union production if you're not in the union, and you can't get in the union unless you do a union production.
There you
go. What gives, right?
Right.
So it's the same thing with the agent and getting the break in your first to audition for a first film or for your first television show. The thing is that when there are many ways to get around that. Going back to being in the union and not the union. Before, we either had to prove ourselves and get Taft-Hartley. That's a rule that if they need someone with your talent and they can't get it within the union, then you would be Taft-Hartley and you'll be able to join the union. Nowadays, there's different ways of joining, getting vouchers and stuff like that. But getting an agent, it's like sometimes it's difficult, especially in Los Angeles. In Los Angeles, you must have an agent and you must be in the union because the competition is so huge over there. So in New York, it's a little different. There's more opportunity for people, and even the smaller markets such as Atlanta and any other market within the United States. But one way to get around that is it's a lot of times you have to audition for an agent, like if you were putting up a scene so they can see your potential. That's what I did back in the day. Nowadays, I don't do that. We have referrals. But getting around that is one way. It's getting a manager. Now, if you don't have a career to manage, well, then why get a manager? Well, a manager is
Kind of chicken or egg thing. Yeah, exactly.
Right. So you get a manager, and a manager would help you get an agent because it's always best to get it by referral, to get an agent by referral. And managers, they do the same function as the agents, except they cannot negotiate any SAC franchise contracts. So that would be the only drawback. But you have the opportunity to get in to see the casting directors and maybe the opportunity of getting a good role. Another way to get around that is also going to the film schools. There's a lot of graduate students who are doing their theses, and they want the film, and they need actors. And you'll get a copy of the film, and you'll get footage of the scene that you're in, and that will be part of your acting experience, and that becomes part of your reel, and that's what you can show a prospective agent. Your potential, and then if they really, really believe it, they really, really, really like you, then they.
I heard field there.
No pun intended.
No, I understand.
And so, I would just say that, just go out there, do community theater, do student films, and then get, go out with the agents. But get training after all. Most of all, get training. It's all about the basics. It's all about the training, about the speech, about the movement, about knowing scene study, and all of those things. And once you get that down, that pack, then you go get those films, those student films. You or create your own content. Show that to the agents. Have them believe in you. Have them push for you and pitch you, and then get that first co-star on a network or the streamer or a supporting role in a film, and that is your foot in. That is your first one, and do not give up on that dream because you can get that agent.
Being there in New York, have you had an opportunity to visit or familiar with the Actors Studio? We think back, there was any number of great talent, Jimmy Dean, I guess Marilyn Monroe. I could go on and on, but do you have any history with the Actors Studio at all?
No, I don't. I did not have any history or any affiliation with the Actors Studio. Although I do have some friends that were a part of that. It's usually by invitation. They invite you to come in. You can just apply for that. So I look forward to one day being in the Actors Studio. I have many friends that are there. Well, maybe one of them I say, hey, come and visit. But I do have some affiliation to other studios such as that, which was the Win Hanman Studio, which is the American Place Theater. It was something equivalent to that, and not as big. But out of that studio and out of that theater, many people came out. Pacino came out of there, and Bernstein, De Niro, Robert De Niro came out of there. You have many other people, John Leguizamo, Joel Grey, Alec Baldwin, Susan Lucci. They all came out of that studio, which is run by Win Hanman. He just recently passed. But he was 96, and he was teaching till the last day,
God bless him.
his last breath.
Yeah.
And I was in his class, and he was just I was getting a taste of the 50s, and it was that studio the studio field, that where he had the American Place Theater, that he created that in the basement of a church. So
I heard a story one time that was it was about Dustin Hoffman, and the name of the movie just escapes me right this second, but it was a cowboy film. Oh, excuse me, it was a kind of a biker thing or whatever. So he was trying to get into the character of the nitty gritty biker, with the engineer boots and the wallet and the chain and the long hair and the thing. And so he decided that he really wanted to get into the part. And so he urinated on his clothes. So he got this horrible smell that would really be indicative of a Harley dude. And Laurence Olivier said, when he was asked about, Dustin's preparation, he said, "Well, couldn't you have just acted?"
What are your thoughts on stuff like that, Jay? Are you a full-fledged method actor that would do
Well,
things like that?
I don't know if that method was in the book or not, but that was definitely I don't know if I'd go quite that far. Well, Jay, listen, we don't want to put you out, buddy. If you'd go to go to the limit like that, go to the distance. But
well, early in my career, I kind of, I was a proponent of that, of, method acting. And so, if the guy was exhausted, I would just run up and down the stairs or just do all kinds of stuff and then begin the scene. And so I put myself through all of that. Sure. Just breathe deeply, and then the feeling will come. It's all about the feeling, right?
Yeah.
So
some actors take it. Yeah.
Some actors take it really to the extreme. Yeah.
Orson, just a funny little thing to add to that. Orson Welles was asked one time in a very serious way, "Are you a full-fledged method actor?" And he said, "Well, give me an example," to the interviewer. And he says, "Well, if you're supposed to, murder a guy," he says, "Well, if I was fully in method acting, I would actually kill the guy in the scene, So that's not going to happen."
That would be an extreme example.
It's called pretending a little bit.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, when I'm preparing for a role, depending on the size of the role, I would put myself in the situation in terms of going to the places that this character would go, be like that character, and say he used to frequent a coffee shop. I would go and sit in any coffee shop, and then become a regular there for a week, and come every day, and then just be that character and see how people react to me and all that. And I would use that as part of my method, because that's doing the research of the character. And a lot of actors do that.
I'm in total agreement with you, and I think we could use Marlon Brando as an example. He wanted to know everything about this guy's life, and 90% of it wasn't in the film, but if he did any ad-libbing at all, or his mannerisms or whatever, he wanted the character to be almost too deep in some ways. What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you rely on just being over-prepared?
Well, no, there's no such thing as always being over-prepared, because you prepared, and what happens, those become layers. They become layers of the character. And although they might not be evident in your acting, or they might not be evident in the final product, it's living within you as a residue emotion, as a residual emotion that's within you. And so that can be tapped in at any moment when you're having a specific scene. Perhaps you're just having some intimate moment, and then the thoughts of that experience that you did might come up, and just might be a fleeting thought, and it could be like the director or the department, the director of photography might catch with his lens. So that is the art of acting in terms of preparing and doing all of those layers for the.
Jay, how many active projects do you have right now that you're involved with at various levels of production, pre-production or production or post-production? Can you give us a sense how busy?
Well, right now, beginning of the year, now we're going into what's so-called pilot season, because that has kind of changed throughout the year. but few pilots come, and that they're picked up from last year also. So there have been many. I wouldn't say many, but there have been like a couple of projects that from last year that I was being considered for, and I've been pinned. And in fact, we signed some NDAs because it was not even in the pre-production stages yet. So there are just maybe two that are pending, and then there's a couple of things in the horizon. So actively, I do not have anything that I can speak about right now in this moment, but there's some things in the horizon.
Awesome.
One
In
of
the
the
works.
one of the things that I had learned about you, Jay, in our early talking before the show today, that like my sister, my brother-in-law, my brother, and my wife, who are all school teachers, that was kind of like your day job before you broke in the industry, right?
Well, yeah, kind of. How I got into teaching, I always loved to, just teach. For some reason, I was always like giving people instructions and so forth. When I went to college, my major was theater arts and performance and theater arts, right, and world drama. But then in the last year, I switched my major to my minor, or my minor to my major. My minor was education, and what I did was I did bilingual education in the Dutchess County of New York, which is up there by Plattekill, by Beacon, by Newburgh, and all of that area, which
Sure.
has a large Latino population. And I graduated with a degree in education, K through 12 certification. And so I taught in the States. I taught in New York City in the middle school, junior high school, and middle school in Los Angeles. And one thing led to the other. I was always in charge of the programs. I was always in charge of the person who was doing the presentations, who was doing the graduation. Yeah, I was always anything that had to do with the stage. I was always volunteered. And also I had an after-school program, which I was teaching acting to the kids, and we put up plays and the like. And one thing led to the other. My creative life was still active besides just teaching in school. And one thing led to the other, where I lived in LA. I lived in a condo where there were actors, and they were always with their scripts in their hands, and they would ask me to read the other part for them so that they can get a feel of it. And so one thing led to the other, and I wound up getting an agent, and then my acting became more prominent, and then my teaching became part-time. I started teaching evening school at Glendale College. I was teaching ESL at night, so I could have days open, so I can go for audition. So that was the transition from my teaching to acting, and now it's full-time acting.
Well, that's great. I gotta ask you this real quick. We've got some time left, but you've seen the business change a lot. You go back to like the 70s. Of course, in the mid 70s, there were three major networks: CBS, NBC, and ABC.
ABC.
Yeah, and the thing is that of course now you've got what happened next was a fourth network with Rupert Murdoch, with the acquisition of Metro Media and Fox and so forth. And now, I mean, you've got just all kinds of things. Of course, the streaming networks, the Netflix, the Hulu, the Amazon, and so forth. What do you see right now, in your opinion? And I have a kind of a selfish reason for asking this, but the cinemas we know aren't in the best of shape right now. Cineworld, which is the same as Regal Theaters, filed for Chapter 11 bankruptcy in September of 2022, and there's some question as to whether or not they're going to actually come up with a real good reorganization plan. What do you see as far as the streaming network being able to pick up the slack if there is a demise of the cinema system, of the theaters? Do you see that as a possibility?
Well, I would say perhaps there might be a good chance that the streamers could be very successful at doing that. One of the things, talking about before when you said it was three major networks and then perhaps a fourth one, and it was just only those channels. But now we have over, sometimes when you go get one of those subscriptions or one of those, they have 1,500 channels to pick to watch. So many. So I think there's always going to be room for that because people can't get enough. The people are the audiences are they want to have it all in the palm of their hands with a remote, and so the old palaces where you had to get up and go and that was an event to go to the theater, and you had those palaces in New York and those palaces in Chicago, and then you have of course the other smaller theaters, which in New York there was one street, 42nd Street was nothing but theaters up and down the street. That has died away, but there's still room for that, and I don't know how much how popular that would be, but to have the experience to go, it was an event to go to the theater.
Jay, we're coming up on the end of the show. We want to thank you very much for being our guest today, and we look forward to maybe talking to you again in the future. You've been listening to Movies and More, and we want to remind all of our folks out there that we're on during the week, every week. And for John Brandon, I'm Stacy Hollis, and remember, take Mama to church on Sunday. Thank you very much, and have a great day. Bye-bye.
Goodbye, everyone. Bye-bye.